wish I found some better sounds no one's ever heard. I wish I had a better voice and sang some better words. I wish I found some chords in an order that is new. I wish I didn't have to rhyme every time I sang. I was told when I get older all my fears would shrink, but now I'm insecure and I care what people think. My name's Blurry Face and I care what you think. My name's Blurry Face and I care what you think.
I thought this was all going to fall apart, and not in some dramatic way or in a way where it's like I throw my hands up, the towel goes in the ring, and I just like walk away. It was honestly quieter than that, and it was more of like a slow leak. And it started with my head. I have like a sharp pain in my head. That's why I had to stop.
Did you check your blood pressure? Like I told you to?
Yeah.
And?
It's high.
What's it at?
I think it was like in the 140s.
Blood pressure is the silent killer. It's most people that get kidney disease, it's actually from blood pressure. It's not from anything else. Like people used to blame protein. They don't eat too much protein and eat too much this. It's like the silent killer for kidneys is blood pressure. Because what happens is that, think of it like a garden hose, right? So your kidneys, right? They have these things inside, all these tubules on the inside, right? So your blood's constantly being pushed through them,
Yeah.
right? So it's like taking a garden hose, right? If I take that garden hose and I bend it, right? That pressure in that garden hose, right, is going to go up, right? And then what ends up happening, right? It's pushing harder through those tubules, right? So what ends up happening is you start getting scarring in there because they're constantly stretched. So that over time is actually what's causing kidney damage.
Every time I lifted heavy, I would get this like sharp pain. And it wasn't a headache because like I know what a headache feels like. This is something that I've never felt before, and it honestly made me stop. It made me stop everything that I was doing. Not only did that put me back in terms of being able to train, but then on top of that, I got sick. And that 2 to 3 week period was probably the worst because I honestly didn't know if I was even going to be able to continue this journey. The pain and the sickness, I could deal with that. But what I was having trouble dealing with was the momentum just dissolving. Because I'm turning 40 this year, and I don't think I can push this journey back any further. The word later isn't real, and that is something that I didn't know back then. But I know that now more than ever. And then if it wasn't for dealing with my head pain, which eventually went away, and getting sick, which obviously you get better, food then became expensive.
Well, the cost of groceries is projected to go up.
Beef prices are just out of control.
The inflation rate for food is projected to be 4 to 6% next year.
And it became so expensive to the point where I just could not keep up with my meal plan. And that was definitely a tough pill to swallow when I had to break the news to Alessandro. And there aren't many things that embarrass me, but for some reason I was a lot more embarrassed than I had expected to be, because I almost felt like I was less than a man at that point, that it was that difficult to provide for my household. And that honestly messed with my head, because I was starting to fail at the one thing that I was so devoted to take seriously. Eventually, I had no choice but to tell him, and the conversation did not go as smoothly as I thought it was going to go. But it definitely needed to happen, because open communication is key, especially when you have trainers. And if they don't know, they can't help you.
Communication's definitely been off. There was a couple times where he couldn't get certain food items and it wasn't communicated to me, and he just kind of improvised on his diet. This only works if you're following a plan, right? 100%. So there's definitely a learning curve. Somebody who's never been on a protocol like this. You know, we're kind of ironing that all out. Hopefully we'll get a little more adherence, a little more strict adherence going forward. That's all I can say about that, really. Next 4 months, we're going to up the ante a little bit. So training's going to get a little more intense. Diet's going to get a little more intense. You know, got to kind of push the envelope up. Probably get the odd refeed here and there when needed, just to keep the metabolism firing. But again, it all depends on adherence here. So we'll see what happens in the next couple weeks.
But during that time, I did my very best to at least try to stick to things that I knew and that were somewhat still on my meal plan. One of them being rice. but I switched over everything else to ground beef. And that's what I was having for like almost 2 weeks in a row, just rice and ground beef. And I could tell you that during that time, it was not working because, believe it or not, the scale wasn't moving. But the strange part was that I was still getting stronger. My energy was different, and clients started to slowly notice that I was looking different. And once I got the momentum back, I came to the realization that I can't be a little bitch about this anymore. And I started to lift weights that I never thought I would lift ever. But I was stuck at 253 pounds for what felt like forever. Then one quiet morning, I stepped on the scale and lo and behold, 251. 2 pounds, 2 whole pounds. And for most of us, you're probably going to look at that and you're going to think that's not impressive. But when you go weeks wondering if anything is even going to change, that 2 pounds feels like the biggest milestone I could ever hit at the moment. I started thinking to myself, is my body ever going to cooperate? And those 2 pounds was the real proof that it was going to cooperate. Like the thing I'm doing might actually work. Like maybe I just have to keep going. Then WrestleMania weekend happened. I had friends over. We were eating pub style food. We had leftovers the entire weekend. Booze, you name it. Knocked me completely out of my routine. I knew that was going to happen, but it wasn't the weekend that was the problem. The problem is what came after. The quiet negotiations, the I'll get back to it tomorrow. It's how the old habits don't announce themselves, but they're there. And that's where I think the majority of people actually lose this battle. It's not really during the bad weekend. It's in the silent moment after the damage was done. You just continue the same cycle. Then Mary added 100 standing crunches per day, and Alessandro upped my cardio by 10 minutes. The better the things get, the harder the process gets. And nobody tells you that. I wasn't prepared for that. I thought the progress was the reward, but the progress just raises the bar. Oh yeah, I also hurt my wrist.
There we go.
Oh, nice. That was nice.
Yeah. You okay?
Yeah.
I felt it. I felt it through the pad.
Ooh, I hit the wrist on that one.
Yeah.
Threw an open palm strike wrong and still hurts. So that now led to Mary having to adjust her training with me. And in the last quarter, that is probably the word that keeps coming up the most. Adapt. I used to think this was about motivation. You know, you find the right playlist, you find the right speech, you go do the thing, you lift heavier weights, you punch just a little harder in training. But motivation is weather, and the weather changes. Adaptation is different. Adaptation is just deciding that the obstacle is now part of the plan. But I can say that my hunger is different. I could barely eat past 6 p.m. anymore. Yes, I do have my moments where I do have dinner at around 7 or 8, but I'm generally eating less. That's new. And now that spring is here again, I get to do the one thing that I actually like when it comes to movement: walking. The biggest thing though, which is one thing that I didn't expect, seeing as there's still so much time left in this journey, I don't feel like I am reacting to myself anymore. I'm not white knuckling through every day, waiting to catch myself failing. I feel like I'm actually moving forward. And just when you think everything is finally going good again, I throw out my back.
We could turn back time to the good old days when the mama sang us to sleep, but now we're stressed